Because the perceptions of Islam and the true values are so different. There's an enormous gap. Before I became Muslim, I had the same perceptions as everybody else. However, when I looked beyond the headlines and, and the prejudices, I found a religion that makes sense, that is beautiful, that contains, the same ethical values as Christianity or Judaism. Did you know, for example, that Jesus is a prophet of Islam? So is Moses and Abraham. There's a whole chapter on Mary in the Quran. Prophet Muhammad was a women's rights champion, a social reformer, an environmentalist. We don't know all of this. Absolutely, you're looking puzzled. We don't know this. This is just not known. I think the true values of Islam are the best hidden secret, and it's time we pull the veil on it and come out and show the positive values. When I tell any of these things that I've just mentioned to my producer on television, you know what he says? My God, Islam needs PR. You have to realize Islam, like any other major religion, is not a monolithic block. Yes. There are many different interpretations and many different streams. Now, the violence of a few fringe extremists, which act against the teachings of the Quran, that is the problem, overshadow the entire media discourse. The vast majority of Muslims condemn these actions, are against them, and live a completely different, beautiful version of Islam, where social equities, social justice, all this, being kind to the weak, the care for the elderly, all that is part of our value system.
Peter Whittle, is this a vision of Islam that you recognise, and would you like to be introduced to it?
Listening to you, it's like you're living in fairyland. Frankly, I don't see why any religion, I'm an atheist, I don't see why any religion should have a PR campaign, which has actually been, I think, directly or indirectly funded by government money, by public money.
It's not, it's entirely funded by private donations.
Right, but it has actually been promoted by tax-funded organisations. Why should this happen? Some of the points that are made are sort of so absurd that they're almost surreal. The idea that, for example, women in Islamic societies are not repressed is quite extraordinary. Now, for example, talk about this country, for example.
Nobody has said that.
Look,
I said the values of Islam are pro-women and pro-men. Don't judge Islam by Muslims.
You said Muhammad supported
absolutely he did, but
hang on, just a second, let Peter finish his point.
It doesn't make the point, this campaign doesn't make the point about how he married a girl at the age of 6 and consummated at the age of 9. No, it doesn't make that point. But the fact I would make as well, and this is a very personal point, is that as a gay man, for example, a big survey done by Policy Exchange a few years ago, the biggest,
hang on.
It was done by Munira Mirza, who is a Muslim.
She's not an atheist.
Right, she was from a Muslim background, and you know it.
She's an atheist.
And the fact is, it found that 71% of young Muslim men, 16 to 24, right, thought that homosexuality should be criminal. Now, how are you going to put a PR spin on that? How do you do that?
Well, Peter, I'm delighted you're here because you're the very reason Islam needs a PR campaign, because people like you talk so much drivel about Islam and Muslims. That's why we need a PR campaign.
Everything
to get rid of nonsense like that. Some Muslims want homosexuality criminalised. Guess what? Some non-Muslims do too. Go to some pubs around here. Listen,
I don't agree with that either.
But you don't judge a people or a community or a faith on the basis of an extremist minority. That's why the majority.
Extremist minority.
Of course it is.
That's 70%.
Of course it's a
70% of 16 to 24-year-olds think that being gay should be criminalised. That is not a minority.
So that means that Islam doesn't have any PR problems, according to you? That doesn't mean that the media don't exaggerate the fears of Islam. No, I'm asking you. You said we live in a fairyland. I live in a land where the newspapers can say whatever they like about Islam and Muslims, where tabloid newspapers go after people all the time. Their Daily Express has either Princess Diana or a woman in a burqa on the front page every other day. There's about 2,000 or 10,000 women out of 2 million who wear burqas, okay? There is an absolutely open campaign of demonisation against Muslims amongst sections of the right-wing press and think tanks like Policy Exchange, sorry to say. You cannot put your head in the sand and expect Muslims to say, oh no, sorry, we're going to ignore this. And actually, let me just make a wider point. Okay, last time I came on the programme, I actually came on to make this point, to say the media actually treats Islam badly. What I came today to make the point was actually, we can't blame the media for everything, we can't blame people like Peter for everything. Actually, Muslims are to blame for a lot of the problems in Islam, which is why which is why Islam needs a PR campaign, not Muslims who bring it into disrepute.
Well,
and that's a very important point.
Well, Christiana made a very good point that was based on that, and I must just say a word for Daily Express. I know that they do cover these stories, they also cover other stories, and don't get me into trouble.
Much, sorry.
Thank you very much.
The Cardiff University School of Journalism found that's not true. They disproportionately focus on Islam.
Christiana, but you made
lessons I had to learn when I converted to Islam. There's, yet again, it's a major religion with a lot of different cultural expressions. So some people live their Islam in a different way than I, as a European, live Islam. And that is the beauty of it. It's open to interpretation.
Muslims are not good at communicating.
Yes,
that's the key
but
point.
you see, exactly, and you see the point is, for social harmony, for cohesion, for in our multicultural society, it is very important. We try to understand each other. We try to understand the other person's value, the other person's viewpoints.
If the Catholic Church had, and I'm, as I say, an atheist, if the Catholic Church had a PR campaign, the fact is it would be laughed out of court here. It would be considered, yes, it would.
The Catholic
It
Church
would be considered to be wrong. Why this should suddenly be, or if a Christian,
Okay, Peter, well, I mean,
Anne,
Peter, I think, has an exception to any faith having a PR campaign. From what
Yes.
Would you share that?
I've lost count of the number of media articles that say Muslim protesters this, Muslim protesters that, without making it extremely clear that this is a fringe minority group and that the vast majority of Muslims do not agree with what they're doing.
But do the majority of Muslims not need to get that message out, to distance themselves very publicly? Hang on, Peter.
The problem is that I would agree, yes, that you do have to make that distinction, and you do have to get the message out about the majority of moderate Muslims. But in that case, we should see some demonstrations sort of not in our name. But this does not happen. This does not happen.
Myself, actually.
Okay.
They are not on a mass scale.
Benjamin.